All right, what is up? Happy Thursday evening. 1 week, one full week since OU won the national championship in 2 games against Texas. Has it felt like a week? I don't know. I've been celebrating for the past 7 days here, thinking about the series that was, thinking about Mike White pouting and crying and talking about his team and how they're not any good in the post-game press conference, all that. It's been a very, very glorious week and a happy National Softball Day to all of you out there as well as we continue to celebrate 4 consecutive national championships. It's going to be a fun off season because we get to sit around and think about that this team is still the top of the game. The dynasty's still going. They still got 4 consecutive national championships. It's great. But you guys saw the title, so you kind of know what I'm going to hit on tonight. So I'll just kind of get right to it. And there was a comment that was made by Patty in the post-game press conference. And why I really wanted to talk about this subject, and again, drop your comments. I see a couple of comments in there already. I'm going to get to them throughout the entirety of the stream. But I really wanted to kind of tackle this subject because, one, I think there's a very revealing quote that Patty had just 1 week ago after OU beat Texas. But because it was such a rumor going into the Women's College World Series, and I just didn't understand why. It was a message board rumor, so I think it was just that. At least that's what I thought was just a rumor. Well, does Patty want to ride off into the sunset? Does Patty want to leave with this senior class after 4 championships? I mean, she's done it all. She's won 8 national championships, 4 consecutive. Maybe she wants to leave with this senior class. And I just never agreed with that, guys. I never agreed with that. And the biggest reason why I disagreed that the run in Oklahoma City was going to be Patty's last is, well, I don't know her, claim to know her personally. I'm not in her inner circle or anything like that. But I've listened to enough of her press conferences and I've watched enough of her games. Like, I got a pretty good idea of what Patty Gasso is all about as a softball coach. Patty loves a challenge. And I think most of you, if not all of you, would agree with that as well. I think that Patty absolutely loves a challenge. Now, when I say a challenge, like, there are some things right now that she's in striking distance of. She's in striking distance of being the all-time winningest head coach. She's in striking distance of having the program with the most the most national championships overall. What does she trail UCLA by 4 titles? Like, she's in striking distance of so many legitimate records, but I don't think that that's what drives her. Like, however long Patty Gasso coaches, I don't think it's going to be because she, is hot on the heels of Carol Hutchins for the most wins of all time, or hot on the heels of UCLA for most national championships all time. Like, my main point as to why not only do I think Patty Gasso's back next year, but I don't think it's going to be her last year either. Patty loves a challenge. And what challenge does she have? Well, I think she has a couple. First off, the SEC. The SEC is a challenge. The Big 12 has been good recently. Texas had a good team a year ago or this past year. Oklahoma State did as well. Baylor was feisty. But the SEC is the challenge. It's the new venture. It's the new chapter in Oklahoma softball history. I think Patty wants to tackle that challenge. I think Patty has dominated the Big 12 for a while, and now Patty kind of wants to go see what this new venture, this new SEC, this new league that everyone talks about, she wants to go and face that challenge first. There's a ton of excitement for OU heading into the SEC, which happens in 18 days. And I think Patty wants to be a part of that challenge. So I never thought that she would retire and walk away just, I don't know, less than a few weeks before you're an official member of the SEC. I think she wants a piece of that. I think that she wants to roll in the SEC and show that Oklahoma, even against the best competition, is still the biggest and baddest thing going on in college softball. And I definitely think that she wants to do that with a young team. And I'm going to play that video clip here momentarily that I was telling you about after the game. But I think the SEC is a challenge for Patty. And I think this young team that she's going to have next year, I think that's going to be a challenge too. You're going to have a young team with a target on its back going into the SEC. Everyone wants to beat you, trying to claim. Like, there's maybe a lot of stress involved with that. But I think Patty, like, it's a challenge. Let's go. Like, how many times have we talked about her saying, well, 5-inning run rules are great, and, I'll always take that, I guess, but I'd love to play 7 full innings, like to play closer games. like to get it to where I can play, more than just 5 innings and get an entire team involved. Patty Gasso digs a challenge. You can understand why after she's won 8 national championships. I don't think that she's bored, but when someone really steps up to this program, I think she really enjoys it. Okay, so I'm going to play this, and I'm going to play the entire question along with it as well, just kind of for some reference. But I think that this is very telling on kind of where Patty's at right now after this season. This was a week ago.
Patty, going off of that, this group of seniors has really left their mark on the program. But how do you evaluate the path you have going forward to continue on what you've built these past 4 years?
I'm ready to start coaching again because I don't have to coach this. They know it. They've got it. They coach each other. I'm really excited about what's coming. I love what has happened with our freshmen. Oh my goodness. I did not anticipate that. So the future is very, very bright.
Ready to start coaching again. I'm ready to start coaching again. And that's kind of goes to my point as well, is I don't think Patty is happy, glad, excited. Yes! Jada Coleman's walking out that door. Tiare Jennings is walking out that door. Riley Boone, Kinsey Hansen, Kelly Maxwell. I don't think that Patty Gasso is celebrating that, but at the same time, she's ready to start coaching again. And she explained what she meant by that. I didn't really have to coach this team a lot. There were times when they asked me like, hey, like, we're not playing so well. We need you to push us a little bit more. But that team, for the most part, really governed itself. That's not going to be the case next year with all the young talent, all the new talent that you have. Patty's really going to have to coach this team next year. And though I don't think that she's glad about seeing all those fourth-year, fifth-year seniors leave, I do think that she's excited about the challenge. Very excited about the challenge. What else did she say? She said, excited about what's to come. So, look, would Patty be the first coach ever to claim that she wasn't leaving or to be excited and then eventually leave? No, she wouldn't be the first, but I always take Patty at face value because coach speak does exist. And I've said this numerous times. Coach speak exists in all levels of sports. It does. But if you listen to Patty Gasso enough, she really kind of tells you what she thinks. Like, Patty will kind of let you know where she's at, what she thinks of the team, everything else. So I don't think that she would say ready to start coaching again, excited about what's to come, and not be serious about coming back next year. And honestly, guys, and I'm going to go to the comments here momentarily, I don't think you say that unless you're like in it for maybe the next few years. Would I bet that Patty Gasso's the next softball coach at OU in 15 years? Probably not. Would I bet that Patty Gasso's the next softball coach at OU in 10 years? Probably not. But will Patty Gasso be the next softball coach in 5 years? I mean, maybe. Maybe. I think Patty's going to do this as long as she continues to enjoy it. And with the new challenge that she has, I think that she's really looking forward to going after that. So as an OU softball fan, of course, I think it's very good news to hear with all the rumors that happened last week and the week before. I don't think Patty's going to ride out in the sunset with this team. I don't think that's going to happen. Brian says Patty will coach until she feels her job is done. Then JT will assume the head coaching position, hopefully. I think that's going to happen as well. I think Patty clearly, OU's not going to force Patty out. Patty's going to get to decide when Patty Gasso's done coaching. And I would guess that JT Gasso is the next head coach. I mean, Jen Roche is there. I mean, pretty good as well. I've always thought that it would be JT Gasso. That would still be my guess today. But you've got really good options there with Jen Roche as well. I would imagine that they hire from within, but even if they decided not to for some reason, I think just about anybody. You never want to follow the goats, but heck of a job that OU has right now. Patty probably coaches until her contract is up. Yeah, I don't know if there's talks about renewing that or extending that or anything this offseason, but that could be the case. Give her a shot to beat Hutch for most wins all time. So Center Sports says that Patty has, all time, she has 1,676. At OU, she has 1,515. Carol Hutchins has 1,707 wins of all time. So, look, if Patty really wants to break the all-time wins record, Patty Gasso can break the all-time wins record. But again, I don't think that that's her driving force. Like, I think that she'd like to have that record. Who wouldn't want to have the record for the most wins all time? I think that'd be great for her, great for the program, great for the family. I just don't think that she would stick around for an extra 2 to 3 years just because she could be first all time in wins. I don't think that that's what drives Patty Gasso. I really don't. But I do think that she's going to stick around long enough to have that record. I do. She already has the highest winning percentage in all of college softball for coaches in the top 25 for wins. She's got an 811 winning percentage. That's higher than Carol's 755, and that's higher than Mike Candrea's 793. And if you stick around for a few more moments, I'm going to use that as to why I think Patty Gasso is not only the GOAT in OU softball history, but I think she's already the greatest coach of all time in softball history. Robert says Patty made a commitment to the 8 new incoming freshmen in the recruiting class. She would never walk away from that. I totally agree. Yeah. And again, like, she would not be the first coach that said all the right things to a recruiting class. Heck, even said all the right things to a portal player and then ended up retiring or taking another job. I don't think Patty rolls that way. I think that she is as genuine as you're going to find in the coaching profession. And not that you totally torpedo a recruiting class or anything like that and tell the entire class, like, yeah, I'm not going to be back. But if she made a commitment, a true commitment to the 8 new incoming freshmen, I think Patty's going to honor that. And I said earlier, I don't think that the all-time wins or the national championships, most of all time, I don't think that by itself, fuels Patty Gasso. That's the reason why she's going to stay around. I think that obviously you're striving towards that because you're striving for more and more wins, striving for national championships. But I think Patty Gasso is about more than just the final numbers. And what I think that she's about is I think that she wants to take this new core of players, the sophomores that you have coming back, the freshmen incoming, whoever else you get in the portal, and you got 5 portal additions to go. I think she wants to make that into the next group, right? The group that just left, the Jadas, the TRAs, the Kinsey Hansons. I think she wants to kind of start from ground level again and build up to that like she did, because it was a lot of fun, and sure, she had a lot of fun with that as well. There are young teams, yes, but not all young teams are like a Patty Gasso team. So exciting. I mean, I'll bring it up again, but that 2016 team is always what I'm going to reference. Incredibly young team. If OU were to go and win a national championship this next year, will they be one of the youngest teams in the Women's College World Series field? Probably. They'd probably have the most collection of freshmen and sophomores in the starting lineup than anyone else in the Women's College World Series. Sight unseen to the other teams. I would guess yes. But I don't know if it would be the youngest team that Patty's had that's won a national championship. I mean, the 4th and 5th year seniors we're just talking about, they won a title 4 years ago. They were young. And that 2016 team with all those young freshmen, Shay Knighton included, and some other legendary players. Like, Patty has won with young talent before. I mean, Patty hasn't needed a 3rd, 4th year players all up and down the lineup. Like, Patty can go win with some freshmen. She's done it multiple times before. Zachary says, can she coach the football team? If only. If only. The toughness that this team has, the resolve that OU softball's had over the years, I would love to see that with every other sport on campus. How many years does she have on her contract? I'll look at that. I feel like it's 3, but let me go back and look at that and make sure. Patty's contract is up to 2028, so it's 4 currently. Yeah, appreciate that. 4 more seasons. Okay. Patty mentioned they came in as girls and left as women. I think she takes a lot of pride in that for their development and all aspects of their future. And that's it. That's what I think drives her. And I don't mean to sound like cheesy or anything like that. Like, but I think that that's genuine. I think that's legit. And all you have to do is hear her speak and hear her players speak. Like, yeah, they want to go win 200 more games so she can surpass Carol Hutchins. They want to go win 4 more national championships, 5 more championships, so they can surpass UCLA. I just don't think that that's what wakes her up in the morning. Like, all right, let's do it. A day closer to passing Mike Candrea and Carol Hutchins on the all-time wins list. I don't think that that's what she's about. And I think you heard it right there in the video clip. Ready to start coaching again. I don't think she's excited to see or happy to see those 4th year seniors walk out, but I do think that there's probably a level of excitement that, hey, we get to start over in some ways and do this again. And not that they'll have 9 starters who are true freshmen next year, newcomers. Like Cassidy Pickering will be in that lineup next year. Ella Parker will be in that lineup next year. Sid Sanders, I think, will be in that lineup next year. So they'll have some players coming back with some very valuable postseason experience, but I didn't hear that. And I wanted to kind of give it a week because we've been celebrating, talking about the series. And I appreciate all you guys, by the way, liking and commenting on all the videos that I've been put out, just kind of fun off-season content. Top 5 biggest plays of the Women's College World Series. I did an all-time OU team yesterday, which was pretty fun as well. But I really appreciate you guys liking, commenting on all that. It is very, very much appreciated. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel, turn on the alerts, because I'm going to try to do something just about every single day when it comes to either OU softball or OU football. But, like we've also heard Patty talk so much about it's just kind of exhausting, like she gets to the end of the year and all the pressure and just everything just mounts on the team. It mounts on her. And she sounds very emotional and very tired at the end of the season. And she said this past year was the hardest. This past year was the hardest championship because they lost 6 regular season games, and all of us were freaking out during the whole thing. I wonder if this is, and I'm not trying to speak for her, just kind of talking out loud here. I wonder if like this new core of young players, this new conference, I wonder if this is in any way kind of feels like a second win to her. It's been all about the stress and, you can't make a mistake. You've got to win every game, and you've got to win every game like this. I think next year's team is going to be good, but I don't know if next year's team will have the expectations that previous teams have had. Like, I don't know if next year's team is going to be the unquestioned number 1 team coming into the season. I could see Florida or Texas being ranked higher than OU going into a year. So maybe there's going to be a little bit more of a relaxed environment to let these young players develop, let these young players mature. Maybe there's not just the overwhelming pressure that these previous teams are had. So I don't know if that's the case or not. It's OU softball. Of course, the expectations are going to be high. The expectations, even with the young team, the bare minimum will be to win a national championship next year. I just wonder if this is kind of like a second win, just kind of a deep breath, like, all right, let's go tackle this again. Let's go tackle this again. Let's see. My point is, doesn't matter if the team is young or not. They're a Patty Gasso team. Yeah, totally. That's why I'm not counting them out, B. Mosier. National championships ain't going to be won today. Not going to be won in fall ball. Not going to be won when the season starts in February. It's going to be won in June like it always is. And if OU can just get there next year, then we know the fan support that's going to be there. We know even the experience that they're going to have from players left over on this year's team. Get back to it next year, and this team knows how to win on that stage far better than anyone else. I think she's going to do a lot of small ball with this young team, kind of like the 2016 team. That would be fun. I know we've been spoiled by the long ball previously, but to see this team kind of bunt and steal and slap, and it feels crazy to say old school softball, but that kind of feels like old school softball now, but just because you see so many crazy power numbers and so many power hitters now. But if that's the makeup of the team next year, they're young and they're energetic and they're super aggressive. I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that. Yeah, fans won't lower expectations, and that's probably right. That's probably right. Though going to the SEC it's going to be a little bit more difficult, that's for sure, especially with Texas going along with you. Texas got a chance to have a really good team next year, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And this program doesn't back down to anyone. In fact, everyone's looking up to this program right now. So this young team they're going to have to handle that. And I think Patty's excited about that too, is Patty knows the challenge that it's going to be with everyone in the SEC gunning for you. And some of these players will not have, had a plate appearance in their first ever game at OU, but everyone's gunning for you. You got to know how to handle that immediately. I said my argument here as to why Patty Gasso is the best softball coach already without the most wins in the sports history. I don't think I'm probably going to have to convince most of you that Patty Gasso is the GOAT of college softball history. She's got the highest win percentage already, an 811 winning percentage. But here's kind of the main point, is that she won her first championship in 2000, and she's won her most recent championship in 2024. 24 years in between national championships. Like, think of any sport. And maybe you guys will rattle one off immediately in the comments, and I'll appreciate that. But I can't think of another coach that's gone 24 years in between national championships. And I don't think that I don't think that she's done winning titles, by the way. But 24 years in between titles, you just don't see that a lot, man. That's a long, long time. Nick Saban won 2003, and then 2020 was his last 17. That's 7 more years for Patty Gasso, and she's not done yet. Patty Gasso's not done yet. So she's done all of this in the most competitive era and the toughest era the sport has ever seen. And no disrespect to Carol, though she kind of talked a little smack last year, which is interesting. And definitely no disrespect to Mike Candrea at Arizona, who was there for 34 years and won 1,607 games. Awesome coaches, awesome programs, but you do it in this era, the way that Patty has done it, 4 consecutive national championships, that's never been done in this era of college softball. She's the best to ever do it. I don't need to see her pass Carol Hutchins on the all-time wins list. I don't need to see that. And Carol has coached, 8 years? Or Carol coached 38 years. Patty's coached 30 years. If Patty were to coach 38 years, 8 more years, she would shatter every single coaching record, and no one would ever touch it again. I'm not sure Patty coaches 8 years, but I don't need 8 more years to roll by for me to say that she's the greatest coach ever. Highest winning percentage by a pretty wide margin, by the way. 8 national championships, 24 years in between. Done it with several different groups. Did it without the best facilities for a while. For most of this run, she did it without the best facilities, She's got the best facility now, but there's a lot of times where she didn't have the best. A lot of teams in the SEC had better facilities with her. She's done it in different eras. 2000 college softball, a heck of a lot different than 2024 college softball. So she did it before the NIL. She did it before the portal era. And now she's dominating in this era as well. I got all the respect for Carol Hutchins, Mike Candrea, and so many coaches out there. But Patty Gasso is the best to ever do it. And though she doesn't have the most wins of all time, the numbers still say to me that she is the greatest of all time because she's done it in the toughest era. And I don't think that she's done doing it anytime soon. Let's see. TJ says, have you heard anything from the portal that they are looking at? You got to think. This is a few weeks ago. I heard some young pitcher from Florida State. And I'm guessing you're going to start hearing more and more news here in the next few days about who OU's really pursuing, who they have an inside track on. 5 spots, I believe, is what they're looking at. And you've got arms coming in for sure, but I got to think that they're going to go after a big name in the portal in terms of the circle. I mean, you need a big name. I like Kirsten Deal, and I like some of the arms that will be freshmen next year, but you need a big-time arm. Are you just 100% sure that Kirsten Deal can be your Kelly Maxwell, your Jordy Ball, your Paige Parker, your G. Juarez, be your horse when it matters to go win a national championship? I know there's not a whole lot of big-name pitchers in the portal this time, and things tend to work out where a big-name portal does end up being available at some point, but I feel like they need to go get one. I think Kirsten Deal can be that pitcher, but I'm just not so comfortable to say right now that I think that she is that pitcher today. She can develop into that next year. She can. But I think you'd like to have someone that is very, very established at this point. So not just a whole lot of names that you look at right now and say, oh, I got to have that. Like the Kelly Maxwell name from last year or whatever example you want to use from previous years. But again, like it's just funny how things work, how players end up being available. Robert says, softball is a national sport now. When UCLA, Arizona won a majority of those championships, it was almost exclusively a West Coast sport. Extremely harder under present-day conditions to win. And, yeah, that's my point. That's my point. And, look, UCLA and Arizona dominated the sport for a long time, and they had some really, really good teams, some legendary teams. Like, I made the all-time lineup yesterday, and someone asked, could UCLA or even Arizona have a lineup that is comparable to this OU lineup that you put out? And I think UCLA could, because UCLA's had some legendary names over the years. You do a UCLA all-time lineup, you're going to say, oh, that's really impressive. I do think OU's would look better than Arizona's, even though Arizona's had a great program as well for many years. But really the point is that they had great teams, but they just didn't have the strong competition compared to what you have now. And maybe UCLA and Arizona still would have dominated the sport if those teams played today. But you got to admit, hey, Texas is a formidable foe. But it's not even just like the big names. It's not even like the Texas or the Floridas or the Alabamas. It's the Dukes. It's the Arkansas. It's the Northwesterns. Heck, it's the Clemsons. Their program's not even very old, right? I mean, I think there's more teams at the top, but even like those middle teams who may not make the Women's College World Series, but are a regular and a regional or super regionals are really good softball teams. Really good softball teams. So it's just a deeper sport. It'll continue to be a deeper and deeper sport as we move forward. So I think that that's cool, by the way. Another reason why Patty Gasso could be the greatest of all time. Who do you think has fueled that growth more than anyone else in college softball? I'd argue OU has. With all of the incredible names that they've had and all that they've won, and Patty Gasso in a lot of ways, I think, in being the face of the sport right now. I think Patty is there's another reason. I mean, I think that she's helped grow the sport maybe more than anyone else that's out there. There's been a lot of people out there that's helped grow the sport, but is there more of a face with this game right now than Patty Gasso? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if there is. Duke is a great program and they're young. Yeah, and they're just on the come up. Like, the sport's only getting better. Like, Duke's not gonna, start tanking all of a sudden since they made the Women's College World Series this year. Like, this sport's gonna continue to grow and grow. I'll play this again for those that didn't hear it, but here's pretty revealing comment from Patty last week, and kind of hints that she ain't done after this year, and maybe she's not done for a.
Patty, going off of that, this group of seniors has really left their mark on the program. But how do you evaluate the path you have going forward to continue on what you've built these past 4 years?
I'm ready to start coaching again because I don't have to coach this. They know it. They've got it. They coach each other. I'm really excited about what's coming. I love what has happened with our freshmen. Oh my goodness. I did not anticipate that. So the future is very, very bright.
Doesn't sound like a coach that's ready to leave to me. I don't know about the rest of you. Does not sound like a coach that's ready to hang it up just yet. And yeah, Patty, I'm excited about these freshmen too. I'm very, very excited about these freshmen. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what they can do coming up soon. I even made a Patty Gasso resume for everyone here, just to show just how much of a goat she is. There's Patty Gasso there, head softball coach at OU, a faith-centered leader that has won consistently over multiple decades, often referred to as the GOAT. Your location's in Loves Field, Norman, Oklahoma, in case you're wondering. She is extremely qualified, a master's in dynasty building at Long Beach State. She graduated in 1984. Her skills include recruiting, developing talent, winning, embarrassing Mike White, creating dynasties, growing the game of softball, to just name a few. I had to really shorten that down. Professional summary: the highest winning percentage amongst coaches in the top 25 for wins, 8 overall national titles, including a current run of 4 consecutive titles, and has considerably helped fuel the growth of college softball, both at a local and national level. So if any of you were curious about the resume of Patty Gasso, I went ahead and made it for you guys. You guys can thank me later for that one. But she is legendary, and I think she's OU's for the time being. They got a chance to do something really fun next year, prove some people wrong. I don't think, surely no one's going to count out OU. I'm sure there's going to be some hot takes out there that, OU won't be as good, this and that. The hot takes, where they come from. But, OU will be rolling on, and hopefully, surely people will still be picking OU to make the World Series next year. If they don't, we'll go ahead and circle that, star that, and come back to that at the end of next year and probably be able to embarrass them. I listened to a Duke podcast with her catcher, and she referred to Patty as a living legend. Yeah, I mean, that's how everyone should act. That's not how everyone should act. Mike White, though he says he's respectful in his own way, whatever that means. But glad to hear other players recognize that she is a living legend, because most people have respect for a living legend, for a living great, for a GOAT. Most people have manners and know to, hey, if someone has done something for the sport as much as Patty has, maybe show a little respect. Hey, Mike White, I think I read you're making about $500,000 a year. Thank Patty Gasso for that. The growth of this sport allows you to make as much money as you're making at Texas, though you would insist on being an idiot every time you play Oklahoma and get in front of a microphone. God, that guy. You're doing a great job, Tyler, and enjoy hearing and seeing history/knowledge, the genuine enthusiasm you love and have for OU in sports. It's awesome. Much respect. Thank you. That actually means more than you know. Thank you for saying that. I am who I am. Like, when it's time to be critical, I don't have an issue being critical, but I love this. I'm a fan, just like you guys. I want them to win every single game. Your life is better. My life is better. All of our lives are better. It's way more fun when OU softball is winning. And again, like, if it needs to be critical, like that'll happen. But I want them to win, just like you guys do. Heck, I had a podcast episode, the Diamond Envy podcast, earlier this year, where I was like, the opening was, "This team is not good enough to win a national championship." And it kind of hurt me to say, but it needed to be said because Patty Gasso even said it herself. Clearly, this team was good enough to win a national championship. They started to play a lot better as the season kind of wore on and wore on. But there was definitely a point where even the head coach thought they weren't good enough to win a championship. But seriously, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. Watching, interacting, all that. I love the comments, all the interaction. That's awesome. But the main point is that Patty loves a challenge, and she'll have her a challenge this year. She's not bringing in a bunch of scrubs. This could be her highest ranked or most heralded recruiting class that she's ever had. And I do think that this is the next great class. This is the next great crop of Oklahoma talent. And you'll have a Sydney Sanders who's, not a freshman or a sophomore, but this team is predominantly going to be freshmen and sophomores this year, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. Patty's looking forward to it. I can't wait till we see an SEC schedule unveil. If I could pick like two teams to see in Norman out of the SEC, who would I want it to be? And you guys can interact with that as well. Man, I think Florida. I think Tennessee would be fun. Tennessee would be fun if they came to Norman. I've got some respect for that program, and they got beat by Alabama in the Supers this year. I think that would have been a tough out in Oklahoma City for someone. But Tennessee could be fun. And then, maybe like a Tennessee and Florida, just because you had the recent games with Florida in OKC, and Tim Walton, of course, coming back to Norman. Tennessee and Florida, though, I don't think I'd complain about anyone. LSU coming to town, they'd bring a lot of fans. Arkansas would bring a lot of fans. Of course, the connections that's at Arkansas. It's going to be fun. Georgia's, I don't know if you call them an up-and-coming program, but Georgia's doing some good things right now. It is going to be a fun league, and a lot more visiting fans than I think we've seen previously are going to be making the trip to Norman and going to be making the trip to Norman to Love's Field. And guess who's going to be coaching third base again for your Oklahoma Sooners? Patty Gasso. That is of my belief, and I feel very, very strongly about that. I think we'd know by now if that wasn't going to be the case. And just based on what she said, don't think that's just going to be the case this year, but I think that's going to be the case here definitely moving forward. All right, appreciate you guys. As always, more live streams in the coming days. We'll be doing some SEC content and some fun, historic content as well. And if you guys have any ideas, by all means, let me know. That all-time lineup was a content idea that I had in my comments. Like, hey, you should do an all-time lineup at some point. I'm like, I can do that. Let's make some fun little graphics along with it. Let's do it. But I might throw out like 5 crazy stats from OU softball. I'm working on something. I'm about to start working on something, I should say, about what the returning players did in the Women's College World Series. And while we're all waiting, impatiently probably, because I know I'm waiting impatiently, while we're all waiting to learn the new names that are going to be with this program, how about some of the names that we do know? These incoming freshmen, these players coming back, what they did last year, what they're going to bring. So a lot more softball content coming up. Will they play every team in the SEC, or will they play so many a season? I'm guessing so many a season with now both OU and Texas running in. I wouldn't think that they play the whole conference, but don't hold me to it, because baseball's not playing the whole conference. And I know that not every softball team in the SEC, or not every program in the SEC has a softball team, right? So maybe they're able to do that, but I would guess that there's maybe a team or two where they don't. So, all right, more OU softball content come in the coming days. Appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you soon right here on the channel.